Welcome to this week's episode of Livewire TV with me, your host, Rohini from Livewire Media. Livewire TV is a part of Livewire Media where we do corporate videography and video marketing. Now, I set up Livewire TV as a place for business owners, just like Natalie's on the show today, to come on, share inspiring conversations, knowledge, and it really just ignite your business growth and your mindset. Now, how often is it that you get to speak to a Team GB athlete? That's exactly what we've got on this show for you today, guys. And that's why I'm super excited to have a chat with Natalie. Now, I've known Natalie for several years now, and for me, it's been a real pleasure just to see her journey and how she's positioned herself in a different way from all the other different personal trainers out there. I think one of the things that I really love about Natalie is that she comes from a place of just education rather than, I find that a lot of people in the fitness industry, the health and wellness industry, they tend to push their own agendas onto you. And Natalie flips it on his head and actually says, well, actually, what would work best for you? And in the midst of helping so many business owners to get in the best shape of their life, she also became a Team GB athlete. How amazing is that? So Natalie, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
You've had quite an incredible journey, haven't you?
Yeah, it's never boring.
Yeah. Tell us about your journey and what you do as a personal trainer.
Okay, cool. What I find in my world is athletes get somewhere. They, win a trophy, do something good, win an award, and then the next thing you know, they're coaching other people. And for me, I was running my personal training business for nearly 15 years before I became a Team GB athlete. So people see me coaching and they're like, you won an award and now you're a coach. I'm like, no. I've been a coach for a very long time. And then I became an athlete. And that comes up quite a lot, which I find quite interesting. And I think it shows how much social media kind of puts out there for the things that people just want you to see rather than the real whole story.
Yeah. Now I know that you're very active on social media as well, but what exactly did it take for you to become a Team GB athlete?
I grew up in sport, and then when I was 15, just after I left school, I got injured pretty badly. So my whole kind of thought process on what I was going to do with my life had to change. And it was a big lesson of, everything that you kind of learn in sport. How do you then transition that into business? And then I didn't really look at going back into a sport until like 2019. The Team GB coach approached me. I was just in my own workout in a gym, and he approached me and he said, I'd really like you to come and lift with us. And I was like, no, I'm not powerful. I'm not strong. This is not my sport at all. Because I grew up in
Is it safe to say at that time when you were initially asked, you didn't, was it a case of like you didn't see the bigger picture or you didn't believe in yourself?
There was a couple of things. So one of the reasons I never went back into sport was because if I got injured, that was it. I couldn't work. And as you know, being self-employed, it's kind of a big thing.
Yeah.
So that was one of the reasons I never went back into sport. But I always felt it was really important to stay active and practice what I preached. So I was always in the gym being active, interacting with other members while I was doing it. And he just approached me out of nowhere and he said, you've never been coached in powerlifting before, but your form is really good. If we could just coach you in the right way, you'll be surprised at how far you could come. I said no to him for 4 months.
Wow.
And he came back to me every single month. And eventually I said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to have 2 weeks off because it's my birthday. I'm just going to give my body a nice recover period for 2 weeks. And then I'll join you in September. And he said, okay. So I joined him, and I honestly thought I I thought I would enjoy the experience and enjoy learning off him, but I didn't think I would fall in love with it the way I did.
Mhm.
And I was training with them 4 days a week from September to November. And then he said to me, "Oh, we've got a charity competition coming up in December, and it's in Birmingham, so it's not far for you to travel. I really think you should give it a go." And for me, I was like, "Oh, it's in December, which means they're going to be dressing up in, silly Christmas outfits. And I love Christmas. So why not do it for charity?" And then 2 weeks before, he went, "No, you're not allowed to dress up because we're going to put you in representing the team." And I was like, "What? What do you mean?" But I just went along with it because he'd put all this time and effort into me. I was like, it's still a charity competition. I'll still go and do it. And I just loved it.
Was it like, was it a case of being in the right place at the right time then?
I think from a gym perspective, yeah, because I hadn't been at this gym long, and not every gym you go to has a Team GB coach in there.
Yeah, yeah. Talk about lucky, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's funny because since we've been together for the past 2 years, we actually have a lot of mutual connections,
Yeah.
but we
Wow.
just never bumped into each other before.
And what's your journey been like as an athlete?
Um, it's it's been hard to kind of like find that balance between committing to committing to a new sport all over again. Last time I committed to a sport, I was at school, so I didn't have to think about the financial side, the business side. I wasn't married last time, so I didn't have to think about, balancing um, time with my husband, time in the business, and time that I had to commit to the sport.
Yeah.
Um, so that was quite tricky. And there's times where my husband wants to go out to eat, and I'm like, I can't do it at the moment because I'm in this phase of training, which means I've got to be really careful with my food. So it took him some adjusting as well. Um, but generally, it's been really good. I think because I've been through sport before and I understand the science behind our body. I think
Yeah.
because of that, my journey's been a lot smoother than a lot of people would have found it.
Yeah, so that self-education really, really paid off in the long run.
Yeah, one of the things my coach first said to me, he said, "You're a personal trainer, and personal trainers think they know everything.
Mm,
But this is my sport. Don't question me." And I remember questioning him about things, and he kind of jokingly told me off about it. And I said to him, "I'm not questioning you because I think you're wrong. I'm questioning you because I genuinely want to learn about this, because
yeah.
all the knowledge that I pick up in any sort of sport, I can then pass on to my clients for all sorts of reasons." So for me, it's been a huge education journey as well.
So speaking of education then, what was the mindset transition like?
Um, you mean becoming an athlete again?
Yeah, because you had multiple things going on at the time. Like you obviously had to train your body, which is a whole other
Mhm,
mindset thing in itself. You'd
mhm,
suddenly join this new team. You had essentially a lifestyle shift.
mhm. I think, because I was training regularly on my own anyway, getting the times in to train was fine. The biggest shift for me, I think, is I don't write any of my own coaching. I don't, like, write any of my own sessions anymore. So I have
Yeah,
to look at his plan and follow his plan. But I also have to follow his plan and listen to my body and then communicate that to him because I'm not writing it.
yeah,
So that took a little bit of getting used to. The biggest mindset thing in my sport is sometimes your weights will grow, but there's massive portions of time where they just plateau, and you have to just keep turning up and keep turning up and keep turning up. I think, like, My bench press hasn't grown for 18 months. It took me 6 months to put 2.5 kilo on my squat, but my deadlift jumped like from 117.5 kilo to 137.5 kilo in like 3 months.
So for somebody who is kind of at that glass ceiling and they want to push through, what would be your advice to them?
Just keep showing up. That's the only way to get through it. Consistency, just provided you believe that you're on the right plan. If you don't believe in your plan, then maybe
What's the
don't keep
point?
showing up for that plan. Maybe don't stop, but educate yourself on why you think this plan is not the right plan for you, rather than just going, I'm stopping because this isn't working. For me, I had faith in my coach's plan, so it was easier for me to just show up, put in the work, and then when I was getting really frustrated by the lack of progress, just talking to him and saying, this is really annoying me. Why is this happening? And then he would just say, this is part of the process. We can't grow all the time. Our muscles can't grow all the time.
And what was your mindset like at that point where like you were facing challenges and having to push yourself, but you weren't really seeing the results? And how did you get through it?
I'm still going through it now. And I think for me, it's easier because it's not just the competing and the destination. I actually genuinely enjoy the journey. So for me to turn up every day, even with the lack of progress, I know it's going to make me feel good. And I know there's going to be some form of progress that I can't necessarily see by just turning up on a consistent basis. And because I enjoy the type of training that I do, it's so much easier.
Yeah. It is a lot easier when you fall in love with what you do, right?
Absolutely.
Now, as I mentioned before, Natalie, I love like your educational videos. I mean, I've learned so much from just watching you. What are the I guess the top 3 myths around wellness that you want to debunk?
Oh.
I put you on the spot now, haven't I?
You are, yeah. You are, yeah. I think biggest one is cardio versus strength training. I have a little bit of a reputation of being anti-cardio. I'm not anti-cardio at all. I just think cardiovascular training has its place. But for the majority of people, they don't think about health and wellness goals and think about the condition of their heart and their lungs, which is what cardiovascular training is for. They think about their physique, they think about their weight, they think about the way they look, they think about their energy levels and the way they feel. And realistically, cardio isn't really going to get you any sort of results in that area. You've got to look at resistance training. And resistance training doesn't necessarily mean weights. It could mean your body weight. It could mean things like yoga and Pilates is like a softer version of resistance training. And the amount of people that come to me and tell me I'm running X amount of times a week, or I'm going on a cross trainer, I'm like, okay, are you enjoying it? No. Is it working? No. Okay. If you're not enjoying it, then you need to stop. If you're enjoying your cardio training, crack on, go for it.
See, I hate running so much.
Yeah. So one of the big reasons people say they come to me is because I will never ask you to run ever. And that's a big win for people who want to work with me, so that's probably the first one. And then what's tagged on to that is the fact that weight will make you bulky. That frustrates me so much because it really doesn't. The likelihood is that I lift more weight than most women I will ever come across, and I'm not bulky. The only way women get bulky is by taking testosterone, because we don't produce enough of it. And that's
Wow.
why it's different for men and women. So if you are interested in lifting weights, or you lift weights and you lift light weights because you're worried about being bulky, unless you're taking testosterone, don't worry about it, because
Right.
we just don't produce it.
So basically, unless you want to like be a bodybuilder, don't worry about lifting weights with
Yeah,
testosterone.
and you see these women who are bulking out who probably are competitive bodybuilders. That's not It's not natural. They are taking something, because we do produce testosterone, but nowhere near as much as a man, and nowhere
Yeah.
near enough to do that. So that's probably another one. Um, and then the other one is probably eating clean and good and bad foods. This infuriates me so much. Like,
I can sense the rage in your
yeah,
voice.
it does so much. They're like, I get people come to me and they're like, "But I eat so clean," and I'm like, unless you're eating dirt off the ground, what does that even mean? Like,
Right.
for
Is
me,
that just
there's
because
no
the term now is so broad?
definitely, and I think,
Okay.
like, there is no there is to me, there's no such thing as good and bad food. There's just food that is more nutritionally beneficial to us.
Right.
Food is a fuel source for our body, plain and simple.
So
It's
I got
us.
to ask, because a lot of people are on this thing of like a plant-based diet. What are
Mhm.
your thoughts on that from a
So,
nutritional point of view?
yeah, so again, this is something that I've got a bit of a reputation for being anti plant-based. And again, this isn't the case. So, if you want to eat a plant-based diet, great. If you don't. If you have a medical condition that pushes you more into the plant-based, then absolutely see a doctor, see a nutritionist, see a specialist. Don't see just a general nutritionist about this. See a specialist about this, because this isn't a case of good and bad foods. This is a medical choice that you're controlling with your diet. And if it's an ethical thing, then that's absolutely fine too. But food is there for us to enjoy. And the reason there's so much diet culture out there and so many, food issues like bulimia and anorexia and eating disorders is because we're putting misinformation out there about good and bad food. If you eat this food, this will happen to you. Unless you're allergic to it, it probably won't. So,
Right.
and the other thing is, in my experience, this is just my experience, the majority of people who aren't plant-based, 80% of their diet is still plant-based.
Right.
So if you think about someone who eats meat and fish, they don't just have a plate of meat or a plate of fish. They actually have
Like
a
veg on the side
portion,
or something.
and
Yeah.
they have their plant-based things on the side. So I think there's good and kind of pros and cons, but it depends on the individual and
Yeah.
what works for them.
And I know that that's what you do, like when you're working with somebody like one-on-one.
Mhm,
I love that you create like a bespoke, tailored plan, because
mhm.
everybody's got their own individual body. It's not like, excuse the pun, but it's not a cookie cutter approach. So, what's your process for working with somebody? So, if somebody's watching this and said, "Do you know what? I really like the sound of that Natalie Hadley. I want to give it a try."
Um, it's pretty simple, to be honest. We just get on a call, whether that's phone call, or like a video chat, and it's a case of just asking you questions and going, okay, what goal? Is there anything medical I need to know about? Are there any old injuries that give you any sort of tweaks or jips or something that we should be aware of? Um, and then in terms of exercise history, are the reasons you've kind of not achieved what you've wanted to achieve before? Are you looking for someone for motivation? Just questions like that, really.
Yeah.
Some people do not want me to touch their diet at all. Some people come to me and they're like, I'm with you for fitness. I do not want you to talk to me about food. I don't want you to touch my food. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, but what if they've got a crap diet?
At the end of the day, that's not my That's
Yeah.
not my decision. That's their decision. If you've got a terrible diet and you want this goal, it's my job to say to you, listen, you probably won't achieve this, and you definitely won't achieve it as quickly if we
Yeah.
don't look at your diet. However, this is your life. So if you don't want me to touch your diet, I won't, because this is up to you. So it's my job to present them with the facts, and it's
Yeah.
their job to then tell me what it is they want. It's not my job to say, you want this or you need this. It's my job to kind of listen to them and say, okay, how can we make this work based on what you've just told me?
Love
Yeah.
that. Natalie, where can people get in touch with you?
I'm pretty much all over social media. LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram is where I hang out mainly. So if you want to see kind of like my own training and the business side of things, then Instagram's where I hang out the most. I am on Facebook, but not so much. And if you only want to look at my actual athlete journey and you're not really interested in the personal training side, TikTok.
Amazing, amazing. Guys, I definitely recommend following Natalie at NH Personal Training, because honestly, her content is so valuable. You'll learn so much, not only from like a fitness, like wellness perspective, but also just from a mindset, because let's be honest, sports and mindset, they go hand in hand. Natalie,
Yeah,
thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate your time and your wisdom. It's been really fascinating.
thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
No worries. Guys, make sure you join us next Thursday, 7 p.m. GMT time for another juicy conversation. See you there.
Bye.